Hi knitters! I'm going to show you how to do a cable cast on, and I want you to see this edge because I love this edge. It's so pretty. This is the cable cast on. It gives this beautiful scroll when you're casting on, and it's just a gorgeous edge, but it's a tight edge. It's not as loose as some, so keep that in mind. It depends on what kind of project you're doing, but you'll need to make a decision about whether or not you want something as tight as the cable cast on, or if you want something a little more medium tension, you might want the long tail cast on, and if you want something really loose and has the appearance of being kind of dropping off the edge or hemless, then you want to look at the knitted cast on. And there are videos that I've made for all of those, so I hope you'll take a look, and I do have these samples on each one. So the cable cast on, let me show you how to do it. This one starts out exactly like a knitted cast on. You get to start with the tail end of the yarn, and it casts on into the working yarn. So you don't have to plan ahead. You can put on as many stitches as you need, and I love the flexibility of working that way. It's much easier to me than a long tail cast on. So I start with the slip knot where I put my fingers under this loop, grab it with my thumb, turn it over towards me, and I've just made a little loop here. Grab the crossover with my thumb and index finger and use those two fingers to grab the working yarn and just pull that through. That's my slip knot. There's more than one method to making a slip knot, but that's how I do it. Then I just take my first needle in my left hand and I bring that slip knot up onto the needle. Now I'm going to grab my second needle, and this very first stitch is exactly like a knitted cast on. You take your needle and go into that loop from front to back and under the first needle. Then you wrap your yarn clockwise around the second needle, bring that loop to the front, and come up from underneath and place that loop back on the needle. So if you watch my knitted cast on, you're going to say, well, what's the difference? Here it is. The difference is when you start now from the second stitch and all of the rest of the stitches, you're actually going to take your needle, the second needle, and place it in between the stitches. You can see that here, so it's kind of in what they call the bar underneath the knitting. And you take your yarn, wrap it clockwise, just as if you were knitting the stitch. Take your loop, bring it forward, come up from underneath, and put it on the needle. Nothing changed except where you actually placed the second needle. So you continue to do that. It's going to come in between the stitches. And these stitches get a little tight. That's why this one tends to cast on a little tighter. Wrap your yarn, bring that needle through to the front, come up from underneath, and then if you find you're getting too tight, because sometimes I'll bring these down and then I struggle to get that needle through, you can actually bring the needle through before you tighten everything up. So let me show you what I mean by that. So as I come up from underneath here, I can actually just take my needle and stick it right in there. It's already in the loop, and then tighten everything up. Now make sure you're keeping it nice and even. That looks a little loose. There we go. So make sure you're not keeping any extra slack in there, but you can do that just to get that needle in nice. Wrap it, bring that loop through. We'll try that again, see if I can do it a little neater for you. So leave a little gap there, bring your needle into it, tighten that up, and wrap. So you can tighten and wrap kind of all in one step. That's just one way to loosen it up a little if you're struggling, if you're pulling it so tight that you can't get your needle in between there. I tend to do that, so I know. And you might do that too. That's your cable cast on. I'm going to show you something real quick here before I let you go. You can see that nice scroll starting to happen here, and the very last stitch always cuts across a little bit and cuts itself short. When you knit it going back the other way, it won't do that because you're going to be pulling into that stitch and squaring it off. These are all nice and squared off, and that's why they look so good. This one's still running a little at a slant. Not to worry, just start knitting and it'll be fine. There you go.